we're all set to go. So first of all, I want to say on behalf of my mother Sunny, my sister Marlene, my brother Stephen, and me of course, and my wife Jean, Brian, Michael, Anne-Marie, Aaron, Sarah, that we want to thank everyone for coming today to honor my father. And we'll call him Albert at this point. He touched many people in many different ways, and this is apparent by all of you being here today. So Albert was a truly unique individual. From the very beginning of his life, a unique situation occurred, which would become one of the many stories that he would tell us throughout his life. Albert was born on August 28, 1922. But the story goes that the doctor went on a 2-day binge after he was born. And the date on his birth certificate is actually August 30th, when the doctor recuperated. It's true, that is the date on his birth certificate. He grew up in the Bronx with his mother Susie, his father Adolph, his sisters Rose, Dorothy, and Faye, and his brother Dave. Now, Aunt Faye would always tell us that if anyone tried to pick on Albert, she'd beat him up, right? So Albert was 20 years old when he went into the service. He spent a few years in Italy during World War II. And the story goes that he fell asleep underneath a tank, and the tank got blown up, and that's how he became hard of hearing. He had a lot of stories. We're not sure what to believe and what not to, but we believe them all. So he was a man of many talents and many names, as you heard mentioned before. First, let's talk about the many names he had. So he was born Abraham. Soon afterward, it was shortened to Albert. Over the years, he was called Albert, Al, Bert, Abe, Yalbatal, Yalbatal Darling by his mother only, Uncle Al, and of course Poppy. He was called all these different names because he meant different things to different people. He was Poppy not only to his grandchildren, but he was Poppy to my nieces and nephews. He was Uncle Al to many kids who weren't even really his niece or nephew, but they were treated like they were. Yeah, it was very confusing growing up. I have a lot of cousins here, I think. So, after my first mother, Phyllis, died from breast cancer, Albert was left to take care of 3 kids, me, Stephen, and Robin, when we were 2, 3, and 4 years old. I think the pages are glued together. So he wasn't going to put up with that for too long. So a year and a half later, Albert and Sunny got married, which was 52 years ago. Now, Mom had an 11-year-old daughter, Marlene, and suddenly we were a family of 6. My father had many different jobs in his lifetime, which were always centered around selling something, as you know. He could talk to anybody about anything. No matter what he did for a living, though, he always provided for his family and made sure that there was food on the table, the bills were paid, and we had a roof over our head. He was a real estate broker, an insurance broker, a property manager. He sold electronics, he sold mattresses. And then when he finally retired, he decided he wasn't going to retire, and he went to work for Reed's and Jordan Marsh and Macy's, selling, whatever he could. One of his stories is, that, and this is true, I can confirm this one, that when most salespeople opened 100 to 150 charge accounts a year at Jordan Marsh, he did about 1,200. He always led the pack, always got the award every year. So, you know, you heard that saying that someone could sell snow to an Eskimo? Well, my father actually sold the hair off his head to a bald man at a tag sale. I was there, I saw it. Bald guy checking things out, my father pulled his hair off. He looked great in this, put it on his head, held up a mirror to $250, send them on to us. Now, in 1988, a week before Brian was born, we lost Robin. And as devastating as this was for all of us, my parents had to deal with losing a child. They joined support groups, and my father would bring food to the battered women's shelters several times a week. And as you know, my father, Albert, he was a serious coupon clipper, and he was thrilled when those triple cereal coupons were in the Sunday paper, so he could buy that much more cereal for the women and children in the shelters. He was, as most of you know, a very serious amateur photographer. I'm sure that some of you in this room have heard the saying, "Take the picture, Al." No matter what the occasion, we say it today too, when anybody has a camera. No matter what the occasion, he had his camera with him at all times and always took pictures at every event that there was. But some people, I won't mention any names, but I've heard it said through the years that he never really had film in the camera. Believe me, I can attest that there was film in the camera. If you ever go to Florida and you open his cabinets, thousands of pictures will fall out. They're everywhere. He has pictures and pictures of everybody. So Albert had a great sense of humor, as you know. He was even funny when he had no intention of making a joke. As an example, a few years ago I was down there visiting them, and we went out to dinner, and he loved to have Frosties from Wendy's for dessert. So he said, "Bobby, pull in the drive-up window. I'm ordering some Frosties." So I pull in the drive-up window, and I roll the window down, and the girl says, "Can I take your order?" And he says, "I want 5 chocolate Frosties, and I want them to go." We're in the drive-up window. He also had some very interesting eating habits. You know, he grew up kosher, and he would never eat any meat that wasn't kosher. But every time we had Chinese food, we had spare ribs, and he ate them, and he told us they came from the kosher side of the pig. There you have it. He also, whenever he ordered a burger or a steak, he'd always say to the waiter or the waitress, "I'd like it well done, burnt to a crisp, like a hockey puck." In that order. So Albert had a daily routine when it came to watching TV. He'd start his day off, he'd clip the TV listings out of the newspaper every morning, put them in his walker, and so he made sure that he could refer to it and didn't miss any of the shows that were important to him. You know, a typical day included game shows in the morning, like Let's Make a Deal, for instance. Yeah, when I went to see him in February, I walked in his house. I hadn't seen him yet. He was sitting in his chair watching Let's Make a Deal. I walked up to him. I said, "Hey, Dad!" And he said, "Bobby, get out of the way." He loved his game show. And then the afternoon consisted of Dr. Phil, followed by Judge Judy, then Steve Harvey. Then it was time for dinner, and then we pick up with Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. So we try to carry on that tradition at our house, but we can't watch Wheel of Fortune because our dog goes crazy when he hears the beeps. He thinks somebody's at the door. He also enjoyed watching sports on TV, and he really enjoyed golf, and he loved Tiger Woods. If you called him before a football or a baseball game, no matter who he wanted, he would always tell you he was rooting for your team. So if the New York Mets were playing the San Francisco Giants, he would tell me he was rooting for the Giants, and he would tell Steven he was rooting for the Mets. Can't lose that way. He also had a routine that he followed every night. He kept pictures by his bedside of his parents, his brother and sisters, and Robin, and he would kiss them goodnight every single night. I think the rabbi said he kissed them in the morning.
That's quite right.
He had many health issues throughout the years, but he always managed to bounce back and get on his feet again. You know, I mean, one of his favorite sayings was, "It's not healthy to be sick." And we always said that he was like a cat with 9 lives, and he used 12 of them. Now, I think we're up to 12 or 14, something like that. So I just wanted to conclude by reading what my father had written in response to a question posed to him by Brian when Brian was in 3rd grade and doing a project for school. And the question was, what advice would you have for a long, happy life? And his response is a clear reflection on how he led his life. I'm going to read it word for word. Be honest. Don't ever lie. Don't smoke. Don't drink. Don't do drugs. Choose your friends very carefully. Try to make others happy. Why? Because that will make you really happy. Never try to intentionally hurt anyone else's feelings. Never take advantage of someone weaker or not as smart as you. Whether you win or lose, a good sportsman always comes out on top. Never this and never that, but always give respect. It will come back to you. Hold on, not done yet. He wasn't done there. As I flipped it over, it said, finally, in parentheses, because I'm running out of space, always love your mom, dad, brother, grandma, and poppy like we all love you. We hope you have a very long, healthy, and happy life. Let's eat.